Shri Chaitanya Ati Priya Buddhimanta Khana.
Shri Chaitanya Ati Priya Buddhimanta Khana.
Ajanma Agya Karitaho Sevaka Pradhana.
Ajana Agya Karitaho Sevaka Pradhana. Okay. Shri Chaitanya of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ati Priya, very dear, Buddhimanta Khan, Buddhimanta Khan, Anjanma, from the very beginning of his life, Agyakari, follower of the orders, Tenho, he, Sevaka, servant, Pradhana, chief. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. The 36th branch, Buddhimanta Khan, was extremely dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was always prepared to carry out the Lord's orders, and therefore he was considered to be a chief servant of the Lord. Purport. Shri Buddhimanta Khan was one of the inhabitants of Navadvip. He was very rich, and it is he who arranged for the marriage of Lord Chaitanya with Vishnu Priya, the daughter of Sanatan Mishra, who was the priest of the local zamindar. He personally defrayed from all expenditures for the marriage ceremony. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was attacked by Vayu Vyadhi, derangement of the air within the body, Buddhimanta Khan paid for all requisite medicines and treatments to cure the Lord. He was the Lord's constant companion in the Kirtana movement. He collected ornaments for the Lord when he played the part of the goddess of fortune in the house of Chandrasekhar Acharya. He also went to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was staying at Jagannath Puri. Translation again. The 36th branch, Buddhimanta Khan, was extremely dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was always prepared to carry out the Lord's orders, and therefore he was considered to be a chief servant of the Lord. Okay. Om Jnana-Tinandasya Jnana-Janashalakhaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katha Mahyam Dadatmi Sopadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamshra He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyashcha kripa sindhubhaiv cha patitanabhyo vaishnavebhyo Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srimad Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Karimantoridaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita Paramananda Pathaya Prema Varshi Aksharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume Madheka Bando Matsangin Matkuro Man Mahadhana Manishtaraka Madbhagya Madananda Namostute Asadu Sadhu Todain Ati Nicho Chatakara Hana Muncha Kadachin Mam Premna Hit Kantayos Puram. So, this particular personality we are talking about today is quite interesting, specifically about how he got his name, the Khan in the end. That means, of course, Khan refers to a Muslim lineage. So, how he got his name was quite interesting to hear in the scriptures. So it's described that in the Satya Yuga, there was a personality there was a king who was known as Suvarna. So Suvarna Sena, and he got the association of Narad Muni, and because of the association of Narad Muni, he became a great devotee of Radha and Krishna as such. And one night in the Satya Yuga, he got a dream where he saw the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his expansions performing Sankirtana in a place called Nabadvip. And he saw Gaura, he saw Gadadhara, who is Radharani herself. So he saw these two personalities, and he cried out in distress in his vision that who is this? Because in Satya Yuga we still did not know about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he was wondering like who are these two personalities who are dancing as devotees and singing the names of Krishna. And suddenly after the vision, he got a voice from the sky which said that in Kali Yuga, Krishna will come down as Mahaprabhu, and the king himself, Suvarna Sena, will take birth to take part in the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. And this same king is actually Buddhimanta Khan. So Buddhimanta Khan is quite an exalted personality, and of course he was very rich. It's nice in this. And he took birth in Kali Yuga, and again he became rich, and he was known as one of the most wealthiest men, or one of the most wealthiest men in the entire area. So Buddhimanta Khan, since childhood, was a servant of Krishna and was actually born into a Hindu family. But he had a servant who was known as Nawab Hussain Shah. I mean, he was not Nawab at that time, he was just Hussain Shah. So he had a very small servant boy, and Buddhimanta Khan was very strict at that particular point. So when the boy committed a mistake while performing service, so he took a stick and he was beating this Hussain Shah, and because of that, there was a small mark that remained on his back. And later, many years passed, and this Nawab, this Hussain Shah became the Nawab, or he became the big man in the city. And then his wife comes into the picture, and his wife sees the scar which he had from childhood, which was given by Buddhimanta Khan. And she got very upset. She's like, "Who gave you this scar, and how did you get it?" So he said, "I was a very naughty small boy. I used to do a lot of mischief, and Buddhimanta Khan used to correct me all the time. And one of the times when he was correcting me, I got this mark on my back." And she said, "No, you're a Nawab. How can you say that you were a poor boy and you got hit by a king or by one of these personalities called Buddhimanta? This is not possible. You have to do something about it. You have to take your revenge for what happened in childhood." Many times we talk about like childhood trauma that happened. So same thing of Nawab Hussain Shah. So his wife told him, "No, you have to take revenge of what happened in the childhood." Then he's like, "No, I don't want to. He took care of me all my childhood. He gave me work. He gave me an education." And she said, "No, you have to do something." And she said, "Maybe you can just convert him into a Mohammedan or a Muslim, and that will be enough of a revenge." And in the past, in the olden times, it's actually very easy to convert someone to a Muslim or a Mohammedan. I mean, even we see like in many of the traditions, even in the European or the Middle Eastern hemisphere, if you have to judge or if you have to convert someone to Islam, all you have to do is give them beef, especially for the conversions of Hindus. But during Mahaprabhu's time, in Navadvip, it was so easy that if you just sprinkle water, like if a Muslim sprinkles water on a Hindu, he gets converted. And there is no atonement for it at all. I mean, even like my family, my great grandparents and parents, they were so strict about associating with Muslims that they would not even accept water in the house of a Muslim. Even until my current day grandmother, like she will never step into the house of a Muslim and accept water even from their house, because it is said that if you just accept even water, you have converted into their religion. It was that strict about it, and that's why, of course, we see in the traditional times the brahmanas would not even look at the lower classes or the Muslims as such as well. So here, Nawab Hussain Shah, he took some water, he sprinkled on top of Buddhimanta Khan, and he told him, "You are now a Muslim. You don't even need to chant the mantras. That's it. This was enough." And Buddhimanta Khan was so upset that now I've converted to Islam. Like my forefathers, my family, my association never accept me, and he didn't know what to do. So he ran to some of the brahmanas who were there in his society, that what should he do. And the brahmanas were even more strict. They told him, "No, now you have to commit suicide. There is no other solution." And he told Buddhimata Khan, "You take lead, the chemical, you take 1 liter of lead and you drink it. If you survive, lead is like the chemical which."
No, it's a kind of a poisonous chemical.
I don't know what the French of that would be.
How do you spell it?
Lead. Lead.
It is used in batteries.
Yeah, used in batteries, even used in many chemical processes.
Prune. Okay.
So
TV, it's chemical.
Yeah, prune. Okay.
So he told him, you take 1 liter of lead and you drink it, and if you survive, you are converted back. You can be accepted back. And one of the brahmanas, the head brahmanas in the society, and he obviously did not accept it, because he had so much of service to do, that Buddhimanta Khan said, "No, I cannot give up my life. I have to take care of Mahaprabhu." So then he went to another brahmana who is also a well-known brahmana, and he said, "The other brahmana told me to have lead. I cannot. I don't want to give up my life." And then he said, "Okay, maybe not lead, but you can have 1 liter of ghee. If you survive through 1 liter of ghee, you're fine again. You can convert back." And for anyone who's drank just ghee will know that even if you take 2 spoons of ghee, you'll be sitting in the toilet like for probably the whole night or the whole day, because the ghee will cleanse your whole system, but too much of cleansing will cleanse everything out, your prana out. So again, this was not a solution for ghee as well. So Buddhimanta Khan was confused, like, what am I supposed to do? And by then, so his name was only Buddhimanta. It was not meant to be Khan, but by then he was given the name Khan because by then he was already a Muslim. And so then the last resort was that he went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He went to Mahaprabhu and he went down on the feet of Mahaprabhu, and he narrated all that happened, and he said, "It was my mistake that in the childhood I beat him, I beat him, I scolded him, and because of that I am suffering the punishments. And now what am I supposed to do?" He told Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, he gave him a prayashchita. So the Sanskrit of prayashchita is atonement. So the atonement what Mahaprabhu gave him was that you go to Vrindavan, you give up your family, you give up your kids, you give up everyone, your entire society, and your money, your luxuries, and just go live in Vrindavan, live there simply, and just chant Hare Krishna. So Buddhimata Khan actually followed this. So he immediately left, and he went to Vrindavan, and That was the last part that was described in his pastimes. So Buddhimata Khan actually had a lot of services that he performed. Jai Krishna, Radha Parisisvara Mandir, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. So Buddhimata Khan actually was very dear to Mahaprabhu. Whenever Mahaprabhu had to perform different pastimes, he would ask Buddhimata Khan to arrange for the costumes. So much so that Buddhimata Khan was the one who arranged the marriage ceremony with Vishnu Priya. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was getting married or wanted to get married again, he was the one who spoke to the zamindar, who arranged for the entire ceremony to take place. So he's the one who carried out the entire ceremony of Mahaprabhu's marriage with Vishnu Priya. So he had quite an important service. Mahaprabhu would constantly use him for getting ornaments for dramas, for costumes, for various other aspects of Mahaprabhu's pastime. So Buddhimata Khan was very dear to Mahaprabhu, but when he had to leave for Vrindavan, it was quite a sad moment, just because of being converted wrongfully without even him wanting to convert. So that is described as an atonement or a prayashchita. So in today's session, we will talk more about what is the meaning of prayashchita, and especially in this particular point, it also, like anyone else, imagine if we were in such a situation where we were thrown water by someone and converted, and we had to give up our lives and go sit in Vrindavan and chant Hare Krishna. Like our immediate revolt would be like, I didn't even do anything. Like all he threw was some water. Like why would I do prayashchita for something which it's not even something as his mistake in that particular moment, and it's just water. Like okay, so what? We can get converted back into Hinduism. But he did not. He accepted it. He, as soon as Mahaprabhu said, he just left. And Prabhupada, when he gave the example of Buddhimata Khan, he explains the example of Parikshit as well. So Parikshit, when he got the curse by the small boy Brahmana, he could have easily countered the curse. He could have said, no, we will call Brahmanas, we will have a ceremony by which we can counter it. But he did not do it. Parikshit Maharaj accepted the prayashchita, and he atoned for it, and he went fasting until his death. And the same thing with Buddhimata Khan as well. So Prabhupada then draws a conclusion that do we really need a prayashchita in this particular age? Because we have done so many mistakes, we are so sinful, we have constantly been away from the Lord. So then Prabhupada brings the conversation which Parikshit Maharaj has in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Parikshit Maharaj says that, I'll read the English. He brings out a very good verse where he says, Vivasha. So, one may know that sinful activity is injurious for him because he actually sees that a criminal is punished by the government and rebuked by people in general. And because he hears from scriptures and learned scholars that one is thrown into hellish condition in the next life for committing sinful acts. Nevertheless, in spite of such knowledge, one is forced to commit sins again and again, even after performing acts of atonement. Therefore, what is the value of such atonement? So Parikshit Maharaj is saying that even though we might go through some sort of atonement, but we still have the seed inside us of committing the sinful acts. So even different people, scholars, learned people, they hear that we will go to the jail if we commit a mistake, but people still end up doing it. We have passport controls in the most developed countries in the world. You have security checks that happen at the airport. Everyone's educated. Everyone knows if you take a bomb or if you take something as a gun inside the airport, you will be straight behind bars. But they still have those security checks because they don't trust the people. Because that's the same element of it. So Prabhupada gives the example of an elephant. We go, we have a bath in the river, but as soon as we get out of the river, we put mud again. As much purification as we would want it to be. So then Prabhupada brings about this word vivasha, indicating that one who does not want to commit sinful acts will be forced to do so by habit. Parishad Maharaj therefore considers the process of attainment to have little value for saving one from sinful acts. So then later on he explains in the next set of verses how he rejects the the process of atonement. Then why is it that Buddhimata Khan was even asked by Mahaprabhu to, because this is this similar prayashchita, that you did a mistake and therefore you have to go perform that penance, that austerity, so that because of conversions. Then Prabhupada brings in the element. So we see in English words there is atonement, there is penance, and there is austerity. All the three are interlinked to each other but are not the same. So we're going to try and understand each of the words. So there is so penance in Sanskrit would be tapas or tapasya, and austerity would also sometimes referred to as tapasya in some of the places. But prayashchita is the direct translation of atonement. So prayashchita includes penance and tapasya, because when you do prayashchita, you also have to perform penance and tapasya. But at the same time, a tapasya is performed by everyone and anyone. Even if like a learned, a businessman of this world, he wants to attain something in this planet, he wants to run a big business, he has to perform some penance. He has to wake up in the morning, he has to do the austerity of setting up a business, working 20-30 hours, the long hours a day, so that he can get the result that he wants. The same way with anyone who wants a good body, he goes to the gym, so that penance is done. So, but if the penance is done as a reason for atonement, it becomes austerity. So Prabhupada explains, as devotees, for example, today we are fasting for Ekadashi. That is considered to be penance. It's considered to be a little bit of an austerity that we perform for a higher result, which is for atoning Krishna. So this particular instance, Krishna also explains in the Bhagavatam that he says, I created this cosmos by penance. I maintain it by the same energy and I withdraw it. Therefore, the potency is penance only. So it says, Shrajami tapasai vaidam. So Krishna again explains, Grasami tapasa punaha, Bibharmi tapasa vishwam. So in this verse, Krishna is explaining tapasa 3 times, where he says that even Krishna performs tapasa or tapas, or like he performs penance, a little bit of an austerity to be able to create this entire cosmic manifestation that we have today. So the first step we have to understand is that tapas is an important element to achieve anything in life. If we don't have any sort of a penance we do, we will just be sitting in one room and doing nothing. So when that tapas gets connected to spiritual life, then we also have to perform some austerity. Austerity means it goes a little bit beyond penance, where we have to go through some extra trouble to be able to achieve something. Like Ekadashi is one of the time. Dhruva Maharaj also went through different types of austerities and penance. So austerity and penance always comes together. He went through different kinds of if you read the Bhagavatam, it describes on week 1 he ate this, week 2 he ate this, week 3 he ate this. He performed different kinds of austerities. So even in that section, there is both penance and austerity required or mentioned in those particular sections. Even the prachetas, so prachetas, when they were creating the world and they had to perform the different, they were for 10,000 years, they had to go in the water, they had to perform different tapasyas, as they would call it. Even in that section, there is a mention of austerity also. So tapas was one, to have an element, and there was also austerity that was performed. And they're interlinked together. It's one and the same, and it's also simultaneously different. It's like a Veda Tattva. So when Rishabdev was also instructing his sons, in that particular section also he mentioned that you have to perform austerities. And there is even a section in the Bhagavatam which describes that when Rukmini and Krishna, when they wanted to have children, they went and they performed some austerities so that they can get good children. So one of the elements of having a good progeny is to perform enough austerity. And even when one wants to become a ruler, when one wants to become a king, when one wants to become a father, one wants to become anything in the world, one has to perform penance and austerity. Even Srila Prabhupada, we see in his own example, he went through so many different tribulations, he went through so many different situations. And Prabhupada was probably in a similar situation as Buddhimata Khan, where he was just given the instruction that go, leave. How he was given the instruction, this was from within, of course, Prabhupada left. But at the same time, Prabhupada went through difficulties. There was this one particular question which I was reading on something called Ask BBKS, and someone said that Prabhupada actually did not go through any difficulties because he is from the spiritual world. He is a Shaktiyavesh avatar of the Lord. So technically, these personalities don't really go through difficulties. For them, this is like a pastime which Krishna is putting through. But then Maharaj replies back after that saying that no, when we say he went through difficulties, when he went through tapas, when he went through these kind of austerities, it adds the glory of the personality. Because if the person didn't go through any situations, any hardships, then he cannot become the glorious personality as we describe it to be. I mean, many times we see like nepotism as a concept, where a rich father's son gets money very easily. And when he becomes a big man, people don't respect him as much as they would have respected his father, because his father went through the difficulty to be able to do the business and to build the whole empire. Same way with even kings, same way with even any personality we describe it to be. So even Srila Prabhupada himself would talk about how much difficulties his spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur went through. So these difficulties actually bring about the glories of that particular person. Therefore, when Mahaprabhu is telling Buddhimata Khan that you go, you give up everything, that added to his glory, that he had to give up all his money, his wealth, his family, his children, just to perform this particular austerity. And that's why it's described that Prabhupada said when you give up your life for Krishna, it's actually very glorious. So many of the full-time devotees, those who have given up their entire life, they're said to be very glorious because they've given up more than the rest of the devotees in general. Just with that element, Prabhupada describes that in the section where he describes saffron dust particles. So that saffron dust particles emanate because it comes directly from the lotus feet of the Lord. Because such devotees, their only desire is the lotus feet of the Lord. Like they've given up everything else in the world. So even for us, just performance of austerity is like reading scriptures sometimes can be considered as an austerity. Waking up in the morning, following the 4 regulative principles. So even accepting a guru, there is a section which describes that accepting a guru is also austerity, because as a individual jivatma, we want to do whatever we like. we don't want to be under the instructions of a guru. But by acceptance of a guru, we accept a life of penance. And there's this, I'll read out a section which again Prabhupada talks about these elements. In executing penance, one must be determined to return home, back to Godhead, and must decide to undergo all. Why then should we not be severe? Why should there not be severe types of penances for the perfection of devotional service? An easygoing life and attainment of perfection in transcendental realization cannot go together. I'll repeat. An easygoing life and attainment of perfection in transcendental realization cannot go together. The Lord is more clever than any living entity. Therefore, he wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. The order is received from the Lord, either directly or through the bona fide spiritual master. And to execute that order, however painstaking, is the severe type of penance. One who follows the principle rigidly is sure to achieve success in attaining the Lord's mercy. So just this one purport has so much that Prabhupada talks about. So one thing is Prabhupada mentions that an easygoing life and attainment of perfection cannot go hand in hand. Therefore, we have to face tribulations. We have to perform more penances. We have to perform austerities. And we see as different personalities in our movement, like for example, Bhakti Vignaj Nrsimha Maharaj, he took the vow that he will have only Ekadashi Prasad all his life. Nothing else. So one of the times in the morning, I woke up for a Mangla, and I walked halfway to go to the Mayapur temple, and it started to rain very heavily around 4:15, 4:20 in the morning. So I stood right there in one of the buildings that I found, and I didn't have an umbrella, I didn't have anything, and it was still quite a distance to go to the temple. So if I would go, I would be completely wet. So I just stood there. I was like, okay, I'll wait for the rains to come down, and then I will go for the aarti in the morning. So I'm waiting there, and I see Nrsimha Maharaj coming in, and he's also looking around the rains. He didn't have anything to cover. So he starts to look on the floor, and he found an old newspaper or something. He picked it up, he put it on his head, and he just starts to run. And I'm just looking, I'm like, what am I doing? And I just started following behind him. So that is exactly what Maharaj described. So if we want any sort of devotional service, we have to be able to take some sort of penance. Of course, the rain was very small as a penance as compared to what we're talking about over here. But this is just an example that anything we want, we have to perform some sort of a penance. And association with great personalities allows us to perform that penance very easily. When we see devotees performing big austerities, more and more tapasya, going through many difficulties, and still holding on to the lotus feet of the Lord, that remains as an inspiration. And that's why the whole Bhagavatam actually describes just these elements, how devotees go through suffering and how they perform penance and austerity, continue performing devotional service. And that's why we have this verse in the Bhagavatam in the 10th canto, Tatya Anukampa, no, it's 11th canto, or was it 12? Tatya Anukampa Shushikshya Manaha, where it says that if one goes through tribulations, one goes through one's karma, but at the same time continues to offer obeisances to the Lord, such a person has the rightful claim to go back to the spiritual world. That's all that we need to do. When we go through tribulations, when we go through any kind of troubles, we just continue performing devotional service. And if a son wants inheritance from the father, all he needs to do is just be alive. There's nothing else. He will get the money as soon as the father is dead. In the same way, all one needs to do is continue performing these austerities, these penances. Here Prabhupada says, therefore he wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. So the Lord is more clever than the living entity. So we have to remember that. Many times, we see the Hindus in general, they go to the temple, they're performing these different deals with the Lord. I will give you, like 2 incense sticks, 1 coconut, and in return you give me a Mercedes Benz. They try to strike these deals with the Lord. But here Prabhupada explains the Lord is more clever. Of course, he understands these deals. Even from our side, sometimes we try to strike deals on different fasting days, that I will perform this, and tomorrow I will have double prasad. I will have double to compensate. Especially on Ekadashi days, you remember the normal prasad. So Prabhupada again concludes in this particular verse that he gives an example of Hanuman. So Hanuman today is not remembered for just chanting the name of Ram and being in the jungle and being a good devotee. Hanuman is remembered because he burnt Lanka, because he took the trouble of going around and finding Sita, for being a companion of the Lord, because he performed different penances as well, and therefore he adds on to his glories. And therefore, for all of us, if we want to be contribute to the movement, please the Lord, penances, the more austerities we perform, the more glorious we become. But of course, we have to have the reminder always that we should be careful. That Prabhupada also says in the scriptures that when we do too much of austerity, we get puffed up, because look at what I am doing. Look at how much of trouble I'm going through. My troubles are the most in this world. Nobody else is facing as many troubles as me. That is that is puffed up. That to think that my troubles are the worst, my austerities are the best. So we have to be careful on these two aspects as well. And hopefully someday we follow on to the path of Buddhimata Khan, and no more Khan, hopefully, and go to Vrindavan in the last stages of our life and chant Hare Krishna. That will be the real fruit of all the penance and austerity that we perform. So thank you. That's all about in this particular section. Any questions? Any comments?
What is the meaning of Buddhimanta Khan? Khan, what is the meaning?
Khan is one of the popular Muslim surnames. If you see, like in many of the popular actors in the Asian sphere are ending with Khan.
Okay.
It's just a surname, like in the Muslim sphere. I don't know the meaning of it. I don't think there is a meaning for it, because most of these names are more like family lineages. But no, Buddhimanta is one who is Buddhi referred to as intelligence. Manta means one who has immense amount of intelligence. So that's like a Sanskrit name, but Khan, no. But they kind of combined it together. But in the whole, sorry, Kespu, in the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita and even the Gaur Ganodesha Deepika, in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, wherever there is Buddhimanta mentioned, there is always Khan mentioned after that. So they have like designated him as Khan already in the whole scriptures. Yes, Prabhu.
Actually, this Khan surname came from Genghis Khan. It is not Muslim.
Oh, really?
Yes, because Genghis Khan, he was from Central Asia and he occupied most of the Asia. So, and he converted a lot of people.
But he was Muslim.
No,
No.
he was Mongolian.
It was from Mongolia.
Ah, interesting.
Originally,
China.
the Khan was not Muslim surname, but it become.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay. Genghis Khan.
Yeah, a question.
Yes.
I'm still not familiar with the difference between atonement, penance, and austerity. If you could put it in a nutshell, because I heard, like as you said, atonement is including penance and austerity.
Right.
I still don't grasp the nuance between penance and austerity, and then how atonement is, from what I understand, it's like penance is first level, then austerity is bigger, and atonement is.
Correct. That's
Yeah,
exactly
but
it is. Yes.
In which sense exactly? You know?
So actually, Prabhupada himself, so I had the same doubt as well. And to be honest, Prabhupada mentions in the same place he mentions atonement, and in the same place he mentions all the three words for the same scenario. So Prabhupada himself kind of referred to them in different places, in different situations, but sometimes in one purport. In the same way, he refers to them constantly. So my understanding is penance is any kind of an effort that we do in anything we want to achieve in life. Like Prabhupada mentions, even to be a good businessman, we have to perform penance. So when penance is done for a reason of atonement, it becomes austerity. But at the same time, as devotees, it's not that we are doing atonement. In a way, yes, because we had a sinful life in the past, and the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is said to be a cleanser, which cleanses all our past reactions that we have since many, 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 many lifetimes. But at the same time, we don't do it with the mood that we want to atone our sins. So austerity is a severe kind of, not severe, I would say, but more of a second step of a penance, where one performs for spiritual upliftment. So austerity is not in the scriptures at least used for material gains, because we don't in none of the scriptural injunctions we see that the person performed austerity to get a good business or a good to become a good leader or something of that sort. That's also all material definitions, whether it's even Kamsa, whether it's even Prahlad's father, all of them is described as penance, in that they perform different penances to be able to get the different powers. So when penance is done for a reason of spiritual upliftment, it becomes austerity. Now the next step is prayaschitta, where one is actually doing atonement for something wrong, which is also a part of spiritual life, because many a times if we really want to purify ourselves, we have to do atonement. Like for example, when we break an Ekadashi fast, uh, that's why you have Pandava Nirjala Ekadashi that is given once in a year, where you don't eat anything the entire Ekadashi and eat the next day only. So that can be considered more or less an atonement, because you broke your fast. So fasting in general is austerity, but because you broke your fast, therefore you have to atone for it, and therefore you go to the next level, which is atonement. Of course, Prabhupada mentions in many places that devotees don't need to atone, and he gives the example of the Christian church. When they go and they go to the priest, and they what do they confess for their different mistakes that they did, but they don't go through any atonement, because they think just by confession they're free from the sinful reaction or free from any bad reaction. But that's not true. So Prabhupada says that one has to go through atonement to be able to get rid of any wrong mistakes that one has done. Therefore, even when one does Vaishnava Aparadh, then there is no other solution but one has to go through atonement. And of course, the best atonement is just to fall down at the feet of who we committed an aparadh to. But that atonement is required. So this is my understanding of the three. So first comes penance. Penance is done by everyone. When it is done for spiritual upliftment, it becomes austerity. And atonement is more like a prayaschitta, like for something wrong that we committed, or of course, many times we hear all our great personalities, they talk about how they had a rascal life, sinful life before becoming devotees, and therefore they all have to atone so much. So we always have to be in the mood that we have to do atonement, because of how demon crazy we were in the past lives, in the past, just before becoming devotees, or sometimes even while being a devotee. So atonement should always be there. And many a times for us, atonement can also mean taking vows of doing pilgrimages. Like for example, when you do Navadvip Mandir Parikrama in Mayapur, for 7 days you're walking through the entire parikrama. It's a lot of austerity. But if one wants to atone, that's a perfect place to do that, in the association of devotees. But at the same time, our chanting and our devotional service should not be with the mood of atonement. Then we are expecting a result. Then it becomes like a falashruti many times. But like one of when we were studying in Mayapur, there was a devotee called what was his name? Hari Leela Prabhu was one of the teachers, and he said that in the Bhagavatam, there are many places of phala shrutis. Phala shrutis are like the fruits you get when you read the Bhagavatam. Many times you'll see when you're reading a section of the Bhagavatam, you will see that you read this section, you will get this. So those are described as phala shrutis, like the phala, the fruit you get from shruti, from hearing that particular section. So as devotees, even if we want atonement, the Bhagavatam is the best place to go for it. Because just by reading the Bhagavatam, in every chapter, we are actually getting atonement. Because we're getting the Phalashrutis as a by result. Same with Ekadashi fast also. There's this book which talks about every Ekadashi, the story behind it. And if you read it, in the end it says that if you read this section, you get this. Sometimes you get a result of yajna, sometimes this. But as devotees, we don't need to read it because our end result is not to get that. So the process of atonement is like a byproduct which we will automatically get when we perform devotional service. Same with austerity, same with penance. Sorry, this is my limited
Very clear. Thank you so much.
understanding.
Well,
Yes.
so I think from my understanding of
Yeah.
penance is always penance is self-inflicted.
Okay.
So we say that it's not a spiritual injunction. So say in case I want to for the next week,
Yeah.
I will do a penance for mainly it's done for the demigods, I think.
Right.
I'll do something for Mother Kali or Lord Shiva,
Right.
or we'll fast for the next 7 days.
Right.
Self-inflicted, there's no scriptural injunction for it.
Right.
Austerity to me means a scriptural injunction. Ekadashi fast, Janmashtami fast, these are austerities we take, and atonement as you explained.
Right.
This is my understanding. I'm not sure how it fits.
But penance also, because if we see like Ravana or any of these personalities, it's not that they were not following scriptural injunctions. Like I think they were following.
Correct. The scriptural injunction is there, but it's like a fast or something that's not really like an Ekadashi
Yeah,
fast.
could
It's
be.
already there. Janmashtami fast is already there. It's
Right,
austerity for us. But this is like a self-inflicted, although it's
Self,
virtual,
sure,
it's
yes.
self-inflicted. This is what penance.
right.
I'm not sure how that fits in.
Yeah, could be because like for a businessman, Prabhupada gives the example of a businessman again and again. So that's self-inflicted. Yeah,
Yes.
there's no scriptural injunction or stuff that he's
Correct.
following.
And it's not they're not religious. They are religious.
Yeah,
But it's just an additional that they want to take upon themselves.
could be. Yes.
Yes, good point. And because my next question was, and how do we consider like some penance austerity done by some Bhagavatam personalities? Like there is Aditi who took the Payokrata vow
Yeah.
to sustain only on milk. That was given by her husband, who was, helping her also to become
Right.
fully devoted to the Lord. What about Dhruva Maharaj, who was also getting some most bona fide instruction
Yeah.
from Narada Muni? Shall it be considered like penance or austerity? Because they may not know that it is,
Right.
for spiritual benefits. They are pursuing a material benefit,
Right.
but actually they will get a spiritual benefit, because the one who gives this vow or austerity is a devotee.
I mean, what I would say is like for Dhruva Maharaj is also like when he performed penance, at that particular point he had a material benefit. He wanted the kingdom, or he wanted a kingdom equal to his father. So that time it was penance. But after he met Narada Muni, who gave him different instructions, then it becomes austerity. So it could be in that situation. So Prabhupada many times explains that even following the 4 regulative principles is an austerity. Because forget even 4 regulative, even chanting of 16 rounds, actually Prabhupada explains many places is an austerity, because we don't want to chant many times, especially 16 rounds, sitting for 2 hours. So in our lives, it is more of an austerity, because I think we are beyond the stage of penance. But in our material lives, for anything that we do, it is a penance. Like for example, even if we want to maintain a good body, we're going to the gym. even being devotees, we're going to the gym, or forget gym, even going for a walk outside. It's a penance to be able to get a good body, but it's used for Krishna's service. So yeah, it depends on our mood, on how on what sort of an exercise we have the mood for. But yeah, it's like I told you, the whole scriptures, everywhere it's interlinked. All this austerity, penance, tapasya, prayashchit. Prayashchit is not so much, but the other two, yes, penance and austerity is very interlinked to each other, because even for austerity you need to perform penance. But prayashchita, no, prayashchita is very different. Atonement is different, because prayashchita, not everyone needs to do it, especially as devotees, unless we know we have done something wrong. And many times, even if we want to do prayashchita, it's better to follow, like you even someone taking a vow. Like I remember someone wanted to was chanting more than 16 rounds. So he wanted to take a vow that he will chant 32 and then 64 rounds eventually. And my spiritual master instructed him, like, no, not right now. You cannot take such vows unless you know you're going to meet it. So, because such vows are filled with a lot of austerity, and that situation has to allow you, and you have to work to that. He still continued chanting, and eventually today this devotee chants almost not 64, but he chants 32 rounds, and he took a vow of 32 rounds chanting every day. So yeah, there are devotees who do more than more austerity, more prayashchita for attaining Krishna. So yeah. Okay, anything else? Okay, so we'll conclude the session today. Thank you all. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Patita Pavana ki jai.